The enigma among humans. In the year 2147, humanity had stepped into a golden age of interstellar exploration. The galaxy was no longer a vast and lonely expanse, it was a gateway to unimaginable opportunities. Deep space probes had recently uncovered signs of intelligent life on the planet Sci-Fi Prime, a civilization far more advanced than anything Earth could boast. A historic mission was set in motion, with the Horizon, humanity's most sophisticated diplomatic vessel, leading the way. Aboard the Horizon, Dr. Alina Monroe sat quietly, her mind racing with anticipation and dread. She was not just an esteemed xenobiologist on the diplomatic mission but also a woman harboring a secret so profound it could reshape the very perception of humanity. Alina was a mutant, a term whispered in fear and awe back on Earth. Born with the ability to manipulate energy fields, her powers were both a blessing and a curse. Her entire life had been a delicate dance of hiding her abilities, fearing humanity's reaction if they were ever revealed. The hum of the Horizon's engines was a soothing background noise as Alina stared out into the vast expanse of space. Though her colleagues on board were focused on protocols, first contact etiquette, and scientific procedures, Alina's thoughts were elsewhere. The energy emanating from Sci-Fi Prime was resonating with her in a way she couldn't fully explain. It was as though the planet itself was calling to her, amplifying the dormant powers she had fought to suppress. The announcement from the ship's AI broke her reverie. Approaching Sci-Fi Prime. Arrival in 6 hours. All personnel prepare for initial contact procedures. Alina straightened her posture and took a deep breath. This was a moment for the history books, a meeting between two intelligent civilizations. Yet deep down, she felt unease. Something about the Sci-Fi invitation seemed too perfect. They were an advanced species, far beyond humanity in technology and understanding of the universe. Why would they extend a hand of friendship to a species so far behind? The question gnawed at her. The Horizon's conference room was a hub of activity. Delegates discussed everything from cultural norms to contingency plans in the event of misunderstanding. The charismatic Captain Marcus Trent led the discussions, his voice steady as he emphasized caution and diplomacy. Alina stayed in the background, observing. She had long learned that listening often revealed more than speaking. Her colleague, Dr. Ryan Calloway, broke her concentration. "You seem distracted, Alina. Nervous about meeting aliens?" Alina forced a smile. Who wouldn't be? This is a big deal. Big deal? It's monumental. Ryan's enthusiasm was infectious. Just imagine what we'll learn. Sci-Fi tech, their biology, and their energy systems. We might solve Earth's energy crisis in one meeting. But Alina's smile faded as Ryan turned back to the group. While the rest of the crew saw nothing but opportunity, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was walking into something far more complex and possibly dangerous. Hours later, the Horizon approached Sci-Fi Prime. The first visual feed from the planet filled the conference room's central display, a breathtaking mix of azure oceans, emerald continents, and luminous megastructures pulsing with energy. It was like a living piece of art. The Sci-Fi capital city, Archinova, dominated the view, its towers spiraling into the sky, bathed in iridescent light. As they neared the landing site, Alina felt a surge of energy ripple through her. It wasn't just nervous anticipation, it was as though her very being was in sync with the planet's energy fields. She closed her eyes and focused, suppressing the overwhelming sensation. The landing sequence began. Diplomats, scientists, and security personnel braced themselves for humanity's first face-to-face encounter with the Sci-Fians. The energy in the air was electric. And then, the Sci-Fians appeared. Tall, elegant beings with shimmering skin that reflected the light around them, they exuded an aura of wisdom and power. Their eyes glowed faintly, and they moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Their leader, High Emissary Velar, stepped forward to greet the humans. "Welcome to Sci-Fi Prime," Velar said, their voice resonating like a harmonious chord. We have awaited this day for many cycles. Let us build a future together. The human delegation was captivated, but Alina remained guarded. Something about Wheeler's tone and presence unsettled her. As the formalities began, she felt a faint vibration in the back of her mind, a warning she didn't yet understand. Unbeknownst to the rest of the team, Alina's abilities were reacting to something beneath the surface of Xiphenia Prime. The resonance was growing stronger, and with it, an ominous feeling that their journey was only the beginning of a far greater mystery. The formal introductions between humans and Xiphenians had gone smoothly. The high domed chambers of Archinova's welcoming hall were filled with both species, human delegates clad in sleek formal uniforms and the Xiphenian hosts radiating an otherworldly luminescence. Conversations buzzed about cooperation, shared knowledge, and the exchange of technologies. Yet, amidst the diplomatic pleasantries, Dr. Alina Monroe could barely focus. The strange resonance she had felt since approaching Xiphenia Prime was intensifying. It was as if the very air hummed with energy, brushing against her senses. Each pulse seemed to whisper a warning, though its meaning remained just out of reach. As the humans were escorted deeper into Archinova, Alina caught her first glimpse of Xiphenian technology up close. The towering structures were not just buildings, they were alive, pulsating with faint lights that shifted like a heartbeat. Pathways flowed with liquid-like energy, carrying glowing streams of data. She felt an unexplainable pull toward it all, her own abilities struggling to stay dormant. High Emissary Wheeler led the group to a grand chamber filled with floating crystal-like objects, each rotating slowly in midair. These are the knowledge cores, Wheeler explained. They contain centuries of our history, science, and culture. A gift to you, humans, to begin our alliance. The humans exchanged glances, stunned. Alina noticed Captain Marcus Trent furrowing his brow. "Why share so much with us so soon?" he asked cautiously. "You know little of our intentions." Wheeler's glowing eyes softened. "Trust must begin somewhere, Captain. Besides, your people are intriguing. You may find that we have as much to learn from you as you do from us." As Wheeler's words hung in the air, Alina felt the resonance again, stronger now. She looked around the chamber, her eyes drawn to the knowledge cores. The light within them seemed to pulse in time with the vibrations she was feeling. Her heart raced, this wasn't coincidence. Somehow, her abilities and Xiphenian technology were connected. The delegation dispersed to explore the city under the guidance of Xiphenian escorts. Alina, however, found herself drifting away from the group, her curiosity overpowering her caution. She wandered into a side corridor, her steps guided by the subtle pull of the resonance. "Dr. Monroe?" A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see Captain Trent approaching, his expression unreadable. "You seem distracted. Everything all right?" Alina hesitated. Should she confide in him? She decided against it. "Just overwhelmed by all of this," she said, gesturing to the glowing architecture. "It's a lot to take in." Trent nodded but didn't seem convinced. "Stay close to the group, Doctor. We're in uncharted waters here." As Trent walked away, Alina felt a pang of guilt but quickly shook it off. She couldn't ignore the growing urgency of the resonance. It wasn't just a sensation anymore, it was a call. She continued down the corridor, following the pull until she reached a vast chamber. The room was unlike anything she had seen. In its center stood an enormous crystalline structure, its surface shimmering with energy. Tendrils of light flowed from it, connecting to the walls and ceiling like veins. The resonance within her peaked, and for a moment, she felt her powers surge uncontrollably. A faint ripple of energy spread from her body, causing the lights in the room to flicker. "What are you doing here?" The sharp voice startled her. A Xiphenian figure stepped into view, their translucent skin glowing with a deeper hue than the others. Their piercing gaze seemed to see through her. I got separated from my group," Alina lied, trying to steady her breathing. The Xiphenian's expression didn't soften. This is a restricted area. You should return to your companions. Alina nodded and quickly exited the chamber, her heart pounding. Whoever that was, they had sensed something, perhaps even suspected her secret. She needed answers, but more importantly, she needed to control whatever was happening to her. Later that evening, the human delegation gathered for a formal dinner hosted by the Xiphenians. The atmosphere was light, filled with laughter and shared stories. Alina, however, remained on edge. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As the dinner concluded, Wheeler approached her. "Dr. Monroe, you seem different from the others," the emissary said, their tone thoughtful. "Do you feel it? The connection to Xiphenia?" Alina froze, her mind racing for a response. "I'm not sure what you mean." Wheeler's faint smile didn't reach their glowing eyes. "Perhaps it will become clearer in time." As they walked away, Alina realized the truth: she wasn't just here as a scientist or a diplomat. Xiphenia Prime held secrets that resonated with her very being. The planet wasn't just alive, it was aware. And somehow, it knew her. The dawn over Xiphenia Prime was unlike anything Alina had ever seen. The sky shimmered with hues of lavender and gold as the twin suns cast their light over the alien landscape. The sprawling city of Archinova glowed faintly, the crystalline structures catching and refracting the light in dazzling displays. Alina sat on the edge of her quarters, her mind racing. The resonance she felt had grown overnight, invading her dreams with images she couldn't fully comprehend, of vast energy flows, ancient structures, and a presence watching her from the shadows. She was no stranger to her power's unpredictability, but this connection to Xiphenia was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was as if the planet itself was speaking to her, though its message was unclear. Her train of thought was interrupted by a knock at her door. It was Dr. Ryan Calloway, a cheerful grin plastered on his face. "Alina, you missed breakfast." "You okay?" he asked, concern flickering in his eyes. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just adjusting. This place is overwhelming." Ryan nodded. "No kidding. Did you hear? The Xiphenians are giving us a tour of their primary energy facility today. I can't wait to see what powers this place." Alina's heart skipped a beat. The energy facility. If her suspicions were correct, this might hold the answers she was seeking. "That sounds interesting," she managed, masking her apprehension. Hours later, the human delegation stood at the edge of a massive crystalline structure that stretched deep into the ground. Tendrils of light pulsed from it, spreading into the surrounding landscape like a glowing nervous system. High Emissary Wheeler explained that this was the core, a central nexus of Xiphenian energy. "This facility provides power to all of Xiphenia Prime," Wheeler said, their voice reverberating through the chamber. "It is a fusion of our science and our world's natural energies. The core is alive, in a sense. It sustains us, and we sustain it." Alina stood at the edge of the chamber, her breath catching as the resonance within her intensified. The core's energy wasn't just familiar, it was the same type of energy she had manipulated as a child. Her powers were connected to this alien world in a way she couldn't yet understand. As the delegation dispersed to explore the facility, Alina lingered near the edge of the core. She could feel its pull, like a magnet drawing her closer. She extended her hand, her fingers brushing the shimmering barrier of light surrounding the structure. A jolt of energy shot through her, and the world seemed to tilt. For a moment, she was no longer in the core's chamber. Instead, she was surrounded by swirling lights and patterns, a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that defied comprehension. Voices, whispers, filled her mind, speaking in a language she didn't understand. "Dr. Monroe." The sharp voice yanked her back to reality. Captain Trent was standing behind her, his face a mixture of concern and suspicion. "What are you doing?" I was just curious," Alina stammered, pulling her hand back. Trent's eyes narrowed. You need to be careful. We're guests here, and we don't know the limits of their technology. Alina nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The brief vision she had experienced confirmed her suspicions. Her connection to Xiphenia Prime was more profound than she had imagined. But what did it mean? And why did the planet feel so alive? That evening, Alina sat in her quarters, poring over the data they had gathered about the core. The Xiphenians' explanation of the energy as a natural resource didn't sit right with her. There was something more to it, something they weren't revealing. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden flicker of the lights. The resonance surged within her, and she felt a presence in the room. Turning quickly, she saw a shadowy figure in the corner. It stepped forward, and she recognized the Xiphenian who had caught her near the restricted chamber the day before. You shouldn't have touched the core, the Xiphenian said, their voice low and accusatory. I didn't mean any harm, Alina replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The Xiphenian tilted their head, studying her. You don't understand what you've awakened. The core recognizes you, human. It senses your potential, your power. Alina's eyes widened. What do you mean? The Xiphenian hesitated before answering. The core is not just a power source. It is the heart of our planet, a living consciousness that binds us all. And now, it knows you. That connection is dangerous, for you and for us. Alina swallowed hard. Why? Before the Xiphenian could answer, an alarm blared through the facility. The lights dimmed, and the floor beneath them trembled. The Xiphenian's expression hardened. You've started something, human. Something we cannot stop. Alina's mind raced as she followed the Xiphenian out of the room. Whatever she had done, it had triggered something deep within Xiphenia Prime. And now, the entire planet seemed to be responding. The alarms echoed through the crystalline corridors of Arcanova, a sound unfamiliar to the humans yet filled with unmistakable urgency. The ground beneath Alina's feet shuddered as she and the mysterious Xiphenian made their way through the twisting passages. The once harmonious hum of the core now felt chaotic, a dissonant energy rippling through the city. What's happening? Alina asked, her voice trembling as she struggled to keep up. The Xiphenian glanced back, their face stern. The core has awakened in ways it should not have. Your touch, it destabilized the equilibrium. This is why your kind should not meddle. Alina's stomach sank. She had feared her connection to Xiphenia Prime was more than coincidental, but now it seemed she had inadvertently triggered something far greater, and far more dangerous, than she could comprehend. In the central chamber of the core facility, the human delegation and Xiphenian leaders had gathered, their faces etched with confusion and fear. High Emissary Velar stood at the forefront, their luminous presence dimmed by the tension in the room. What is the meaning of this disturbance? Captain Trent demanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. Velar raised a hand to silence him. The core is in distress. It has detected an anomaly, a disruption to its harmony. Trent frowned. What kind of disruption? Velar's gaze shifted to Alina as she entered the chamber, flanked by the Xiphenian who had confronted her earlier. The emissary's glowing eyes narrowed. You. The room fell silent as every eye turned to her. Alina's heart pounded, but she forced herself to meet Velar's gaze. I don't know what's happening, but I didn't mean to cause any harm. Velar's voice was calm but laced with authority. The core recognizes you, human. It has connected with you on a level we have never seen. This connection has destabilized its balance. If we do not restore it, the consequences could be catastrophic. Catastrophic? Trent echoed, his expression darkening. For whom? Your people or ours? Velar's tone remained even. For everyone. As the conversation continued, the tremors grew stronger, and the light within the core dimmed, flickering like a dying flame. Alina could feel the resonance within her intensifying, as though the core was calling out to her directly. She knew she couldn't remain silent any longer. "I can feel it," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "The core. It's alive. And it's reaching out to me." The room erupted in murmurs, the humans exchanging uneasy glances while the Xiphenians whispered in their native tongue. Wheeler raised a hand, silencing the noise. "What do you mean, Dr. Monroe?" Alina hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I've had these abilities since I was a child. I can sense energy, manipulate it in small ways. When I touched the core, it was like it recognized me. I don't know why, but I think it's trying to communicate." Wheeler's expression darkened. "This is unprecedented. The core has never reached out to an outsider before. If what you say is true, then you may be the only one who can restore its balance." Trent stepped forward, his protective instincts kicking in. "Hold on. You're saying she has to fix this? We don't even know what this is." "She's a scientist, not some intergalactic repair technician." But Alina shook her head. "Captain, I think I'm the reason this is happening. If there's even a chance I can stop it, I have to try." Wheeler led Alina and a small team of humans and Xiphenians into the core's inner sanctum, a cavernous chamber pulsing with unstable energy. The air was thick with tension as the glowing tendrils of light flickered erratically, their once harmonious rhythm now chaotic. "You must attune yourself to the core," Wheeler instructed. "Find its frequency and stabilize it. But be warned, the core is powerful, and its consciousness is vast. If you lose control, it could consume you." Alina swallowed hard but nodded. She stepped forward, feeling the energy surge around her. Closing her eyes, she let her powers flow freely for the first time in years. The sensation was overwhelming, like diving into a turbulent ocean of light and sound. At first, the core resisted her touch, its energy lashing out like a wounded animal. But slowly, she began to sync with it, her abilities resonating with the core's chaotic rhythms. She could feel its pain, its confusion, its fear. It wasn't just a power source, it was alive, and it was terrified. As Alina delved deeper, images flooded her mind, memories not her own. She saw the Xiphenians' early days, their discovery of the core, and their symbiotic relationship with its energy. But she also saw something darker, a warning of a long-forgotten threat, a force that had once nearly destroyed the core and was now awakening once more. The chamber trembled as Alina's connection with the core deepened. The energy around her began to stabilize, its chaotic pulses softening into a steady rhythm. She could feel the core's fear subsiding, replaced by a cautious trust. But as she worked, a new realization dawned on her. The core's awakening wasn't just a reaction to her presence, it was a warning. Something was coming, something that threatened not only Xiphenia Prime but the entire galaxy. As Alina opened her eyes, the chamber fell silent. The core's light had steadied, its energy once again harmonious. Wheeler approached her, their expression unreadable. "You've done it," they said. "But the core has revealed something to you, hasn't it?" Alina nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes. The core is afraid. There's something out there, something ancient and powerful. And it's coming for us all." The calm within the core chamber was short-lived. Though the energy had stabilized, an oppressive tension lingered in the air. Alina could still feel the core's fear reverberating through her, an echo of something vast and incomprehensible looming on the horizon. High Emissary Wheeler broke the silence. "You've calmed the core, Dr. Monroe, but this warning you speak of, it changes everything. The core has always been our guide, our lifeline. If it fears something, then we must act." Captain Marcus Trent, standing nearby, crossed his arms, his jaw tight. "Act how? We don't even know what this something is." Alina turned to face the group, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. The core didn't give me a clear picture. It's like, fragments of a memory, images of destruction in darkness. Whatever this threat is, it's ancient. The core has faced it before and barely survived. Wheeler's expression darkened. We need more information. The core's knowledge is vast but fragmented. If it has shown you these fragments, there may be more hidden within its depths. As the discussion continued, Wheeler proposed a risky plan, to access the core's deepest archives, a place no Xiphenian had ever entered. It was said to contain the collective memory of the core itself, but reaching it would require direct integration, a dangerous process that could overwhelm even the strongest mind. "I'll do it," Alina said without hesitation. Trent immediately protested. "Absolutely not. We don't even know what's in there, or what it could do to you." "I don't have a choice," Alina replied. "The core chose me for a reason. If I can find out what this threat is and how to stop it, then I have to try." Wheeler nodded solemnly. "Very well. We will prepare the integration chamber." The chamber was located at the very heart of the core facility, surrounded by walls that pulsed with light in a steady rhythm. The air was heavy with energy, and Alina could feel it resonating deep within her. As she stepped into the integration device, a crystalline pod that hummed softly, Wheeler and Captain Trent stood nearby. Wheeler's gaze was calm but serious. "Once the process begins, you will be fully immersed in the core's consciousness. You will see its memories as if they are your own. But be warned, the core's mind is vast and alien. You must hold on to your sense of self, or you risk being lost." Trent placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to do this." Alina met his eyes, her resolve unwavering. "Yes, I do." With a nod, Wheeler activated the device. The pod closed around Alina, and she felt a surge of energy envelop her. The world around her dissolved into light and sound, and she was plunged into the core's depths. At first, there was nothing but chaos, a swirling maelstrom of colors and sensations that threatened to overwhelm her. But slowly, the chaos gave way to clarity, and she found herself standing in a vast, infinite space filled with glowing threads of light. Each thread pulsed with energy, a fragment of the core's memory. As she reached out, the threads began to weave together, forming a vivid vision. She saw the Xiphenians' ancestors, a flourishing civilization that had discovered the core eons ago. The core had become their guide and protector, but its energy had also drawn the attention of an ancient, malevolent force. This entity, known only as the Void Shaper, was a being of pure darkness and hunger, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing in its wake. The Xiphenians had fought valiantly, using the core's power to repel the Void Shaper, but the battle had come at a great cost. The core had been gravely damaged, and the Xiphenian civilization was nearly wiped out. To protect itself, the core had entered a dormant state, suppressing its memories of the event, until now. Alina's heart raced as the vision shifted. She saw the Void Shaper stirring once more, its shadow spreading across the galaxy. The core's warning was clear, the Void Shaper was coming, and this time, it might not be stopped. When Alina awoke, she was back in the integration chamber. Wheeler and Trent were standing over her, their faces tense with anticipation. "What did you see?" Wheeler asked. Alina took a deep breath, her voice steady but grim. "An ancient enemy. A force called the Void Shaper. It's pure destruction, and it's coming for Xiphenia, and Earth." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Captain Trent broke the silence, his voice sharp. "Then we prepare. We figure out how to stop it." Wheeler nodded, their expression resolute. "The core has chosen you, Dr. Monroe, and we will stand with you. But if the Void Shaper is as powerful as you say, we will need more than just Xiphenia's strength. We will need allies. We will need humanity." Alina met their gaze, her resolve hardening. "Then we'll fight. Together." As the alarms faded and the core stabilized, Alina knew the battle was only beginning. The Void Shaper was coming, and it would take everything they had, Xiphenian ingenuity, human resilience, and her own powers, to stand against it. The revelation of the Void Shaper's imminent arrival sent shockwaves through the human delegation and their Xiphenian hosts. The air was thick with urgency as plans were hastily drawn in the shimmering halls of Archinova. The Corps' dire warning had united two civilizations, but both knew their combined strength alone might not be enough. High Emissary Velar stood at the center of a bustling command room, their luminous form commanding attention. The Void Shaper's reach extends beyond Xiphenia and Earth. It has devoured countless worlds in its wake. If we are to stand a chance, we must rally others to our cause. Captain Marcus Trent nodded, his voice firm. Humanity has allies in neighboring systems, colonies and trading partners. They'll listen to us, especially with evidence of the threat. Velar inclined their head. And we will reach out to our own allies. But time is short, and not all will believe us. Alina Monroe listened from the edge of the room, her mind racing. The images she had seen during her integration with the Corps haunted her. The Void Shaper wasn't just a threat, it was an apocalypse waiting to unfold. And she couldn't shake the feeling that her connection to the Corps held the key to their survival. As the humans prepared to send messages to their allied colonies, Alina joined Captain Trent in the ship's communications hub. The tension between them had eased since her revelation, replaced by a mutual respect born of shared responsibility. "Do you think they'll believe us?" Alina asked as Trent activated the transmission systems. "They'll have to," he replied. "Once they see the data from the Corps, they'll realize the stakes. But belief doesn't always translate into action." Alina nodded, her thoughts drifting. "And what about Earth? Will they stand with us?" Trent's expression hardened. "Earth won't have a choice. If the Void Shaper reaches our planet, it's over. We fight now, or we lose everything." Meanwhile, Velar led their own efforts to rally Xiphenian allies. The emissary's voice resonated through holographic channels, their words carefully chosen to inspire unity and action. Some of the responses were swift, with neighboring planets pledging their support. But others were skeptical, unwilling to risk their resources against a threat they had not yet seen. Velar's frustration was evident as they returned to the core chamber. Alina was there, examining the swirling patterns of light that pulsed within the core's crystalline structure. "Convincing others is proving more difficult than anticipated," Velar admitted. "Fear blinds them to the greater danger." Alina turned to face them. "We don't have time to wait for everyone to agree. We need to act with the allies we have." Velar studied her for a moment, their glowing eyes thoughtful. "You speak with conviction, Dr. Monroe. The Corps chose you for a reason, but I wonder, do you fully understand the burden it has placed upon you?" Alina hesitated before answering. "No. But I know this much, I won't let it win. The Void Shaper is coming, and I'll do whatever it takes to stop it." As preparations intensified, the Corps provided invaluable insights into the Void Shaper's nature and weaknesses. It was not invincible, though defeating it would require extraordinary coordination and power. The Corps' energy, amplified through Alina's connection, could serve as a weapon, a beacon of light against the Void Shaper's consuming darkness. But there was a cost. "The Corps' energy is finite," Velar explained to the gathered leaders. "Using it to repel the Void Shaper will weaken Xiphenia permanently. The Corps may not survive." Trent leaned forward, his jaw tight. "If we don't use it, none of us will survive." The room fell silent as the weight of the decision settled over them. Alina felt the eyes of the room on her, waiting for her input. She looked at Velar, then at Trent, and finally at the Corps' glowing form. "We use it," she said firmly. "The Corps understands what's at stake. It's willing to make the sacrifice. So am I." With the decision made, the humans and Xiphenians turned their attention to strategy. The core would serve as the central weapon, its energy channeled through a massive amplifier constructed by Xiphenian engineers and powered by human ingenuity. The combined forces of both civilizations would form a defensive line, holding off the Void Shaper long enough for the weapon to charge. But as they worked, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that the Void Shaper was already aware of their plans. The resonance she felt with the core had shifted, tinged with a sense of urgency and dread. It wasn't just a race against time, it was a race against an enemy that was always one step ahead. As the first wave of reinforcements arrived, human ships bristling with weapons and Xiphenian vessels glowing with energy, the command center buzzed with cautious optimism. Messages from other systems trickled in, some pledging support, others offering their regrets. Captain Trent clapped Alina on the shoulder. "We're as ready as we'll ever be. Let's hope it's enough." Alina met his gaze, her resolve hardening. It has to be. But deep down, she knew the battle would demand more than weapons and strategy. It would demand sacrifice. And she was prepared to give everything. The sky above Xiphenia Prime was ablaze with activity. Human and Xiphenian fleets filled the heavens, their combined forces forming a defensive wall against the impending darkness. Ships hummed with energy, their weapons primed, and crews prepared for a battle they knew could be their last. On the planet below, the core pulsed steadily, its energy flowing into the massive amplifier that would serve as their ultimate weapon. Alina Monroe stood in the command center, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of the Void Shaper's approach. The entity was still distant but growing closer with each passing moment. Its presence was like a void in space, a moving shadow that swallowed everything in its path. High Emissary Velar stood beside her, their glowing form dimmer than usual. "The core is ready, but the amplifier needs more time to charge. Our forces must hold the Void Shaper at bay until then." Alina nodded, her hands clenched at her sides. "And if they can't?" Velar's voice was calm but resolute. "Then we will fight until the last breath." The first contact came in a sudden, devastating wave. The Void Shaper's heralds, dark, writhing constructs of energy and matter, descended upon the fleet with terrifying speed. Human and Xiphenian ships engaged immediately, their weapons lighting up the sky in a desperate attempt to hold the line. On the surface, the ground defenses roared to life. Xiphenian energy cannons fired brilliant beams of light into the sky, while human missile systems unleashed volleys against the descending enemies. The air was filled with the cacophony of battle, a chaotic symphony of survival. Alina watched the display with a mixture of awe and dread. The combined forces were holding for now, but the Void Shaper itself was still distant, its massive shadow looming ever closer. She could feel its presence in the back of her mind, a cold, unrelenting force that sought to extinguish everything in its path. "Amplifier status?" Captain Trent's voice cut through the tension. Velar's hands moved across a glowing console. 60% charged. "We need at least another 10 minutes. "We don't have 10 minutes, Trent growled. "Tell the fleet to buy us more time." As the battle raged, Alina felt a sudden surge of energy within her. The resonance with the core had grown stronger, almost overwhelming. She turned to Velar. "The core, it's trying to tell me something." Velar's glowing eyes met hers. "What do you mean?" Closing her eyes, Alina focused on the connection. Images and sensations flooded her mind, a desperate message from the core. The Void Shaper was adapting, its heralds growing stronger with each passing moment. The fleet wouldn't hold much longer. Alina opened her eyes, determination blazing within them. "I need to connect directly to the core again. It's the only way to amplify its energy faster." Velar hesitated. "The strain could kill you." "If we don't try, we're all dead," Alina replied firmly. Racing to the core chamber, Alina entered the crystalline pod once more. The energy enveloped her instantly, pulling her into the core's consciousness. This time, there was no chaos, only clarity. The core's voice, a harmonious blend of light and sound, spoke to her. "You are the bridge," it said. "Your energy and mine must become one. Only together can we repel the Void Shaper." Alina felt the weight of the words but didn't hesitate. "What do I need to do?" The core's response was simple. "Let go." As the Void Shaper's shadow began to engulf the fleet, the amplifier roared to life. A beam of pure energy shot into the sky, carving through the darkness like a blade of light. The heralds disintegrated upon contact, their forms dissolving into nothingness. But the Void Shaper itself remained. Its shadow recoiled briefly before surging forward, its sheer presence threatening to overwhelm the amplifier's power. In the core chamber, Alina's body glowed with an ethereal light as her connection to the core deepened. She could feel the Void Shaper's cold hatred pressing against her, but she pushed back, channeling every ounce of strength she had. "More power." Velar's voice echoed through the chamber. "We need more power." Alina's voice rang out, calm but resolute. "Take it from me." The core hesitated. "You will not survive." "I know," Alina said softly. "But neither will anyone else if we fail." With Alina's energy amplifying the core's power, the beam grew brighter, stronger. It pierced through the Void Shaper's shadow, tearing into its core. The entity writhed and shrieked, its form collapsing under the onslaught. For a moment, it seemed the Void Shaper would retreat, its shadow dissipating into the void. But with a final surge of defiance, it struck back, sending a wave of darkness hurtling toward the surface. In her final act, Alina reached out with her powers, creating a shield of light around Xiphenia Prime. The wave of darkness crashed against it, shattering into fragments that dissolved into the ether. The Void Shaper was gone. The battlefield fell silent as the remnants of the enemy disappeared. The fleets, battered but victorious, let out a collective sigh of relief. On the surface, the core's glow dimmed, its energy spent. In the core chamber, Velar and Trent found Alina collapsed in the pod, her body still glowing faintly. Her eyes fluttered open, a weak smile on her lips. "Did we win?" she whispered. Velar nodded. "Thanks to you, we did." As Alina's glow faded, she felt the core's presence within her, a quiet reminder of their bond. She had given everything, but she had saved not just Xiphenia and Earth, but countless worlds beyond. The aftermath of the battle was a time of rebuilding and reflection. The humans and Xiphenians, united by their shared struggle, began forging a lasting alliance. Alina, though weakened, found a new purpose as a bridge between their two civilizations. The core, though diminished, pulsed steadily, its light a reminder of the strength found in unity and sacrifice. And though the Void Shaper was defeated, Alina knew the galaxy would always face new challenges. But she also knew this: together, humanity and its allies could face anything.